The Latin American International Championships has just concluded, kicking off the Paradox Rift format. A really interesting tournament, actually. I think there's a lot of storylines and a lot of development from this first tournament going into the next couple of weeks of regional championships. There's going to be Gdansk next weekend, so literally just a few days to react to this tournament. Some players possibly flying from LATAM straight over to Poland, which is going to be really interesting. The one thing I wanted to touch on today was Roaring Moon, one of the big stories, one of the big cards, really, of Paradox Rift. It was doing exceptionally well in the city leagues in Japan, as well as doing pretty well and very popular, actually, on PTCG Live in the build-up to this tournament. However, despite being the 5th most popular deck in the day 1 field, the highest placement, as long as PokéStats is accurate, was at 90th place for Roaring Moon, with an 8-5-2 record. Respectable, but not really blowing anyone away. It seems like possibly the all-out turbo YOLO list isn't the way to go. We're going to be doing a full breakdown of the top 8 deck lists as they come in the next couple of days. You know that's always going to be on the channel. But for today, I wanted to talk about possibly a new way to play Roaring Moon, and that is going to be making it more of a single prize deck. That is the recipe for success in the format right now, I feel, where we have Roaring Moon for the big bust-up one-hit KO potential when required, but we are also still playing many one-prize Pokemon that can fight that fight, keep us in the game against Gardevoir, because actually your matchup is pretty poor despite being a Dark-type deck, because just being the turbo list of Roaring Moon gave up too many multi-prize threats throughout the entire game, Screamtail being really good for up-trading into Squawkabilly in particular, as well as just as they develop into the game with Shining Arcana and whatnot, especially because they spam Iono against you, and Roaring Moon didn't have much of an onboard engine, you would just kind of crumble to their single prizes up trading into your Roaring Moon. So what if we went more single prizey on our own end and basically did what we used to do with Mew VMAX when it first came out and have the Galarian Moltres package in here for the Malevolent Charge Fiery Wrath combination to be the beat stick option to go through a Gardevoir EX when required. So the idea with this list, certainly against Gardevoir and against Lost Box, we're going to try and represent multiple single prize threats, from Morpeko being a really good early game option with the Energizer Wheel, having Brute Bonnet deal 130 damage with the poison from the Rampaging Hammer isn't a bad idea either, so we are playing the booster capsules in here to try and push that damage counter over to make this a more reliable and valid single prize attacking mon. Then you become a 180 hit point Pokemon swinging for 130, that's pretty reasonable, and of course that damage tick is still super important for Roaring Moon's Calamity Storm attack, because it pushes the 100 up to 110 without having to discard a stadium, which can be nice at times, definitely into like Tina, where sometimes you want to keep a path in play to stop the opponent drawing with concealed cards. There are situations where you might want to keep your own PokéStop around as well, just for extra dig potential on future turns. But of course it also allows you to jump all the way up to 30 damage, which, as we've seen with Roaring Moon with Iron Hands, it's a really important threshold to be hitting right now without gouging yourself. If you use that Frenzied Gouging, you fall prey to a single prizer coming in and responding on you, or a response Iron Hands taking a 3-prize knockout on you. So that is a concern for the Frenzied Gouging. You do it if you have to, but really you prefer using the Calamity Storm throughout the game. So this is a really interesting build, and I know that Bibarel is actually really popular already in Japan with Roaring Moon, but I think the big shift here is that we're going more single prizey with it and saying that Roaring Moon hits the board when we can power it up in a turn with like Sada patch attached, that sort of thing, and then we just immediately get value from it in a lot of situations. And after the moon's been knocked out, it's then just a board filled with single prize Pokemon. The Morpeko has great synergy throughout the entire game, being a pivot for us, really makes the Galarian Moltres a really strong combo late game with the Klara package going in here. You're going to see in the video today there's a few variations of the deck list, because I'm still certainly in that experimental phase. I think this is not a fleshed out, ironed out 60. This is my knee-jerk reaction of, oh my goodness, Roaring Moon underperformed and really didn't do well despite being very popular and all the success that we'd seen online. Why is Roaring Moon not doing well? How about we try a one prize build? That's kind of what we're trying here. With great engine Pokemon, with Bibarel and Greninja, we know this is like the backbone of a ton of decks. The engine's kind of similar to Chien-Pao, it's kind of similar to like Cloth Brute Bonnet as well if you want, but the idea is that sticking with the dark type coverage gives us the best natural chance into the Mew matchup, into the Gardevoir matchup, and we just naturally still have some of the best attackers in the game when we need to be facing down other multi-prize decks, which of course there are some still in the game. Having the overstatted Roaring Moon is insane, having the poison tick damage when required is awesome. I'm trying a couple Arven in here just to try try and cherry pick these cards. The EXP share being an extra helper, making sure that we don't run out of fuel throughout the entire game, because obviously you're limited on the amount of Sadas and patches, and if we're going single prizey with it, sometimes the bonnets are just going to get instantly knocked out, and that's a lot of resources being lost. So having an EXP share on board gives that little bit of help every now and then, which is something I'm experimenting with. I've also gone even heavier onto an Arven package, where I've thought about having the Forest Hill Stone Galarian Moltres V combination in the deck list, just to make the Arven a stronger card, possibly in the early stages, like you see sometimes with the Charizard builds. So I'm still in that experimental phase. I think the counts aren't nailed down, but I just wanted to present this concept, really, for being possibly a more viable way of playing the archetype, where you have a backbone of a draw engine, which seems really important when there's the heavy Iono builds of Gardevoir, which are very popular right now, and are probably expected, even with Valiant doing so well and Iron Hands doing so well. The bulk of the day 2 was Gardevoir, right? It had a really good conversion despite being the most popular deck day 1. I played it at Cup this weekend. Just the new toys that Guardy has are just so insane for it. It gives them so many ways to come back into all sorts of situations, because they have Screamtail, they have Cresselia, they have Countercatcher, they have Iono. They just have so many ways that they can capitalize on really bad board positions for them just by buying like a turn here or there, because they have the burst potential, they have the spread potential. The deck is really crazy right now. So I think respecting Gardevoir is still going to be the way. I think Valiant helps out in that regard a little bit, and I think Valiant builds are going to be adapting as well. Obviously Entei was doing well this weekend, but I think there could be some development there going into the next few weeks as well. It's another thing that I'm going to try and bring to the channel this week, because there's still a lot to be figured out from this format. Just because we've seen some good lists from Latin America doesn't mean that from now on we just play those 60s and jam them and refine them like 1 or 2 cards. I think there's still a lot of refining to be done, and Roaring Moon is still one of the most powerful cards from the set. It's just trying to make it work in and around other cards, because it turns out that it's not good enough in a vacuum to just be like, hey, I'm the pace setter deck, I'm gonna outrace everything by just going burr with heavy item cards and whatnot. We're still having a lot of those elements in the deck, but we're trying to have different flexible plays. You can see I've got a Countercatcher in here as well, because we can play one prizey when we have to, and obviously Galarian Moltres is an exceptional card in the late game, but you have to use Klara very often, so having the Gust plus Klara play makes Moltres an even stronger attacker, like we've seen with Radiant Charizard in Lost Box builds. It's an even better card because there's the Countercatcher option in here. So yeah, been toying around with this. I think it's a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of intrigue around this archetype. It's a little bit clunky here and there, so I am still doing that ironing out process. But like I said, don't take the 60 as read, take the concept as something to like roll with and see if this can be an adaptation for Roaring Moon going into this set. So yeah, really interesting concept of just how we could be tweaking this very powerful core, and let me know what you think and enjoy the games. If you're looking for PTCG live codes, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code OmniPoke. So it looks like our opponent is going first in game 1, and it's actually up against Zapdos TCG. Definitely make sure you check out their channel if you don't happen to know about them already. I'm sure you already do. And looks like they're going to be playing Miraidon. No surprise, it's just won an international championships, so I think it will be popular on the ladder in the next few days. Looks like they have a strong start. They were able to Ultra Ball away a research, and they're going to be able to tandem unit here to get some stuff out. Our hand is actually really bad and really slow, to be honest with you. We're going to need some help from possible top decks or draws from like Radiant Greninja or something along those lines to get anything going here. Going to see the Zapdos early. I guess seeing Brute Bonnet means they know we're up against Roaring Moon deck, so having the 230 threshold is important for them. Klara's really not a great draw either. We're going to Vessel away Vessel, because we just have so many of these. We're going to thin at least a handful of Darkness Energy here, which is nice. Then we can Ultra Ball. And I think it's got to be Greninja, right? This hand is really bad. And if you don't hit VIP turn 1, you know, you lose the option. And that's a lot of our ball search. It's a pretty rough PokéStop. We were able to hit Bidoof. PokéStop hitting double Sada is really bad for us, though. They have a 2-card hand. I'm going to go for the booster capsule onto Bonnet, so they can't just Iron Hands through us. Still a little bit yucky that I'm committing energy here, but they are able to rip research straight away. We really hope this PokéStop stays. It's our only draw, really. Oh, they whiffed the PokéStop completely on their end. Get rid of a path. That's really good for us, because we're going to need concealed cards for sure here. See the Flaffy come down. I think they're Dynamotor to Miraidon, so just spreading their threats right now. I suppose they're not under too much pressure from Brute Bonnet, so I think they're happy to do this. I think the tandem unit, they could have done that before the PokéStop, I suppose, but I guess they were waiting to see what was what from the PokéStop. Maybe they could have had other lines of play first. Yeah, they're just checking out what's in the deck, I think, not wanting to fill the bench. Does pass over to us. Okay, so Roaring Moon's something. That's a start. Let's go with PokéStop. That also sucks. We lost Iono, which isn't in the list anymore because I'm now playing Arven's, but it was something that I was experimenting with. Obviously, Iono's a good card. Either way, it's been milled, so... we, yeah, once again, have a really slow start here. We're going to grab our next Bidoof. We're just going to poison the Flaffy. I actually could have poisoned the Mareep as well. So this Flaffy could actually be in range of a Morpeko because I didn't poison turn 1. So that actually is relevant. Definitely should have poisoned the Mareep the previous turn. But yeah, really slow start from us. They're able to grab Arven now for Generator plus Forest Seal Stone. Then they Super Rod, which means they probably only have access to 1 Iron Hands this game, which is something to keep an eye on. If we can knock out the Iron Hands, they maybe can't recover it. We then see the tandem unit. That's a weird sequence, but fine. They could have had better odds. I'm going to go into Roaring Moon because I don't want to allow them to amp you very much on any of my other Pokemon, and this is the best Pokemon that can tank. They obviously still have Dynamotor plus turn attachment, and they had Forest Seal Stone available, so they could have found a way to amp you through Bidoof, Bibarel, or Greninja for 2 prizes, and I don't want that to happen, so... Especially because we have the rope in hand, right, so we can just sponge. We do see a Generator. Looks like that was likely from the Forest Seal Stone. They're just debating where to attach his energy. The double hits onto Raikou V means they can get a bonus fleet-footed card. They're just going to Lightning Rondo for 210. Sada top deck is really going to help this hand out because the hand is woeful right now. We're going to proactively rope. Means we're probably going to have to take a single price knockout here, but I think we're just going to have to accept that. I'm going to get the next Roaring Moon into the mix, because obviously I don't want to start powering up this damaged Roaring Moon, because it can fall prey to Ampy very much. I'm debating how heavy I commit to this Vessel, because I want to Bibarel draw. In the end, I'm just going to triple attach to the Roaring Moon on the bench, which has more hit points, and take a single price knockout. There's very much a world where this healthy Roaring Moon does get knocked out, which would be pretty bad. That would put us in a pretty awkward spot. So we are going to see the tandem unit. If there's no boss here, forcing the single prize could be really handy. Obviously, like Iron Hands can try and fix that on the damaged Roaring Moon. So they can still win in 3 attacks, even if they do have to go through the active here. We see the next Mareep come into play. Then we see the Fleetfoot. Ultra Ball gets rid of Squawk and Lightning. Just grabs Miraidon. Actually, it's going to Iono us. Okay. Oh, that's a really bad Iono. Because we've been clogged up with Vips. And, well, I guess Nest Ball will be unlocked at least. But not much Bibarel draw. That pretty much locks me into a boss Frenzied Gouge next turn, I would say. Yeah, as they are just going to go through the active. At least I can take out Iron Hands here, and we know they've played Rod. That's the only good news in all this. Going to fail the... Sorry, fail the Nest Ball so that we can Bonnet. I am going to spend a patch, and then we're going to top up. I'm pretty happy just throwing away a ton of my energy reload now, knowing that Galarian Moltres is a great finisher for us. Gonna get a ton attached on Roaring Moon. We can Frenzy Gouge here. It's not great, but we only played 2 Ancient Booster Capsules in this list, trying to make space. You know how it is. And when the Bonnet goes down with a Capsule, it means you have to hit 230 the ugly way, which is Frenzied Gouging. But we know they got rid of Rod, right? So we're able to make this play. Gonna see a Bravery Charm. That's another thing that I'm sort of in and out in with the list. With Arven's coming into the list, it makes Vacuum a stronger card, and Vacuum's pretty good for like the mirror match and against Miraidon. So if you think those are going to be popular, could be a solid card. Also gives you like an Arven searchable way of bouncing Path, which is relevant for Greninja draw at least. Regardless, we're going to see the Zapdos come in for the revenge KO here with Electric Ball. That's kind of fine for us, I think. The Mareep's going to be there. Offers up a pivot, possibly. We don't mind going through the single prize of this turn, though, so I think Sada's looking pretty solid. We're really close to the bottom of our deck, actually. We're, like, procuring the deck at this stage. I definitely could have Nest Balled for a Morpeko here first. I think I definitely should have done that, actually. Yeah. Regardless, we have drawn in some more patches, so I can get that into the mix. We still have... well, we want Boss so we can try and close next turn, and then there's also Klara. We're just going to Rampaging Hammer. So I think our opponent's best player is definitely taking out the Roaring Moon, right? If they can do that with a single prizer, like this Mareep actually, yeah, here we go. Nice. This is the best play they definitely could have made. The Vacuum Mareep Boss KO. This is 100% their best option here. But it does mean that we... oh, sorry, they go down to one prize, so we will have access to Countercatcher for game. So I can Klara Galarian Moltres. And we're really close to the bottom of our deck, actually. So I should be able to close here. We've already got the boss back, but I think I might have to Klara for energy anyway. Double Ultra Ball is really good for declogging as well. Yeah, so I do have 2 raw energy in the deck. So I don't actually need to Klara. I guess that means I'm putting my hand size down as much as possible, knowing that I could always Klara on the other side of this first Bibarel. And we actually just hit the raw energy. So I have game in hand, right, with Countercatcher Dark Patch. I didn't want to show them that I played Countercatcher, though. Just may as well draw the entire deck and just do the boss. They knew I got boss back with the pad. So yeah, cool to see that we could draw the entire deck and make a nice late game push onto Moltres. Getting into our next one then. Our opponent's going to start things off. This is a much better hand, and you can see now that I've converted to Arven with this list. And we've both started with Greninja and both started with VIP. They seem to be playing Tina, and they're able to select and drop a path on us. Pretty standard stuff. That's actually really bad for my hand. Really, really want to get Greninja drawing here. That's a great way to like unlock our energies, actually. So pretty ugly for us. This Arven can get more Vessel, I think. I think I just need to get more energy into the mix, honestly. Just start thinning the deck of energy. I have Ultra Ball for next turn, so I can Bibarel and draw some cards at least. So it's a slow turn this turn, but my hand will, like, unlock next turn. And if I do the Vessel stuff now, it means I can at least improve my top decks like this. I'm going to attach a Radiant Greninja. I already have a Dark in the discard pile, so I'm like eyeing up potential Sada lines of play, eyeing up potential Dark Patch to Morpeko plays, because it can knock out Confe itself pretty handily, and then set those energies up for other Pokemon. See another Flower selecting, gets rid of VIP, looking pretty good. Nest Ball for another Confe. So they've locked themselves out of Cram and Sableye, actually. But Greninja is a threat. So something to be aware of. We do hit PokéStop, which opens up Greninja draw, which is nice. I do put the booster onto Roaring Moon, and I think in hindsight it's actually better on Bonnet. We'll get onto why in a second. Well, mostly it's because it's a math fixer for Galarian Moltres, right? It means I can 280... the Tinas, I think it's mostly important because I already tossed my other booster energy capsule, right? I got rid of it in an opening hand. So this does limit my plays quite substantially into the late game. Greninja, fortunately, does get us a Sada at last, which is going to make this hand a lot better. And we do get to patch attach here to Morpeko and get our 70 damage prod going. A debate around Switch or just play Retreat here. Keep the Switch open, because we know, obviously, they do play Hand Disruption, but it's not likely that Hand Disruption is coming anytime soon. And we still have to be aware of like counter-catcher Sableye players from the opponent, so I want to keep my switches available. Very important for the Gardevoir matchup as well. If you can keep your switches and ropes around, this is going to be huge for you to play around the like Iono Screamtail stuff. It's another reason why I liked the Arven choice in here, because it improves your odds of just going, oh, you got hit to a low hand size, I still have Arven for switch or rope or whatever. Still get to play the game, because Screamtail Iono is just such a big combo right now. The other alternative is, of course, that we play Manaphy, but they play Avery anyway, so it just makes an extra piece of their combo, I suppose. But with no Hand Disruption in our deck, they make the combos happen all the time. Regardless, the opponent is starting to get the Sableye into the mix. Let's see Mirage Gate. So Greninja's getting into the mix. Yeah, makes sense. Going to be the Shuriken. Going to put the 90 on the Roaring Moon. That makes the Frenzied Gouging a much less viable play, obviously. Still a play, but just feels a bit more ugly. It would put us on 3-3, and I actually don't hate this too much, to be honest with you. It's not great, but we can go 3-3. They can respond with Sableye, but we can, yeah, we can still make life difficult for them. So this is a pretty awkward gouge, but we're still going to go for the line. I think this is mostly because I don't want my opponent to have access to cross-switcher, counter-catcher. I want to keep up in the race, but not allow them to have these annoying gust plays, which actually they end up making with Boss here. I didn't want them to have the whole let me Roxanne plus bring something up, because even with two Bibarel setup, it feels a little bit awkward, especially if it was an Iono and those two switches went to the bottom of the deck. So, oh wow, the opponent with the Boss actually wasn't able to get to 10, so they scratched. Okay, that's really bad for them. That's really, really poor. Yeah, that's gonna just really make this game a lot easier for us now. We can switch in with Bonnet, go down to 2, and then our map is going to be trying to recover a Roaring Moon. And likely, yeah, just Roaring Moon all in one turn is the idea. There's one from prizes, so that means I don't need to Klara back a Roaring Moon now. It's pretty good. There's possibly a line here where I let my opponent take 2 prizes and try and close with Countercatcher, honestly. Roaring Moon getting Roxanne is a little bit annoying. Obviously, I can't put it down until I can get the value out of it, though. We do see a Countercatcher from the opponents now with the Roxanne combo, but we have another Bibarel anyway, so we're always getting some draw. They're just going to take out the Brute Bonnet. Makes a lot of sense, because it has all the energy on it. So Klara's not bad. It can help us... Ooh, there's the Countercatcher. That's interesting. It could get Galarian Moltres into the mix. Definitely debate whether or not I should get the Roaring Moon here. I'm definitely debating an Ancient Pokemon, because it opens up the Sadas from this hand, right? I'm not going to play the Switch now, just in case it doesn't end up coming off. And we're actually just going to pass here. So we want our opponent to take a prize. And actually them hand disrupting us would be ideal, because the hand is a pretty clogged up one right now. I can play a few... So they do go for Iono, which is actually really good. You kind of expect them to, because I topped up on my hand cards, but I guess with the barrel anyway, it wasn't like guaranteed. They are going to Lost Mine, and they're going to take out the Morpeko, and then spread some counters around from then on. So now it comes down to, can we reload a Roaring Moon? We've just drawn into 2 Dark Patch, and there's the Ultra Ball. We have even more I think we have our third patch in the deck, and we have Sada, so we can get rid of this energy just for extra moon draw. Now we can Ultra Ball the moon that we took from prizes, and it's actually looking really good. We have Bibarel plus PokéStop plus Sada draw to actually hit this counter catcher to win now, to just gouge through the Tina. So it was a really roundabout kind of parsy way of doing things, and there we do end up getting game. We had Ropan switched it in the deck, so with Sada draw and PokéStop, it was actually, we were getting to the bottom of our deck, basically. So yeah, we were weirdly kind of guaranteed to close out that one with the counter catcher. Really, really strong card. It's already come in clutch in a couple of these first games, so definitely I'm a fan of it. One of my first builds actually was playing cross switchers, but it was kind of too clunky. Definitely debate around Bidoof or Roaring Moon, because you can just lose to a Valiant, but obviously I was going first, so we're going to go with the Bidoof to start things off and have a look through. We have a pretty nice hand. We can concealed cards, looking for fodder mostly for our Vessel, and in the end it's going to be an Ultra Ball that we get rid of, so I can get a turn attachment in. We see a Squawk, so it's most likely Miraidon or Roaring Moon, you would think. Or Valiant, I suppose. A lot of things are playing Squawk right now. Turns out it's going to be a mirror match, and this should bode pretty well for us, because we are going to be able to dictate a one prize board as and when required, and then switch into the two prizes as and when we need to as well. So pretty rough PokéStop from them. Gets rid of a Sada, and also got rid of a Roaring Moon, but they are still able to Squawk and Seize here. See 6 fresh cards. They do have the benefit of a support still if they have access to one. Double Roaring Moon means it's probably a Sada coming in. Yeah, there we go. So a few energies spread around here. Still a bit of work to get this attack. Water energies are something to be aware of. Don't want to put down double Morpeko onto this board because of it. We're going to go with a Greninja. And then we're going to get the Sada value. Definitely a debate to only doing one onto the Roaring Moon, because I did have the Dark Patch available to me. The Rope is the way that we move this Morpeko. We're then able to get the Bibarel draws in and get our next Bidoof down. It's always nice to get the engine flowing. There's some Darkness Energy. No access to patch. I could PokéStop away a Darkness Energy. We actually get rid of Klara and Roaring Moon, which is a little bit yucky, but I do end up hitting Ultra Ball. So we can come in with Brute Bonnet. It's not ideal because I'm actually sacrificing a lot of energy here. Rather than if I was able to weave these attachments in earlier in the turn, I could have Energizer wheeled the Morpeko and retained these energy. But it's still nice to take the initial knockout here. We see a PokéStop from them. Trekking Shoes. I'm a little bit concerned about them taking out our Roaring Moon, but they would likely have to do... Oh, here we go. We see Boss's orders. They'd likely have to do a Frenzied Gouging, though. Yeah, it is. So I can still come in with Bonnet now and reply. So it's still... I'm still forcing that one prize around. So look, my board is all one prize now. And I can Iono. In this list, it was playing Iono. It's looking good here. I'm going to do an Incisors first. Going to retreat into Bonnet. I'm going to Ultra Ball away Sada and Boss here, knowing that Iono is looking really good. Going to proactively Moltres 1 energy. Again, just retaining the single prize board is really solid. Knowing that I can get turn attachments onto this Moltres this turn as well, and then it's still basically ready to go. Going to keep some Dark Energy in the deck because there's still good draws for Greninja. Then we're going to hammer through the Roaring Moon. And from this position, I think we're really, really well set, to be honest with you. They have 4 single prize knockouts to take before we can take 2. And that's going to be pretty good for us, I would say. Do you see the Ultra Ball? Going to get a Radiant Greninja. Just the pass. Not ideal for us, actually, because Bonnet can't chain attacks. I'd love to find an out to a switch here. So I can actually use this Brute Bonnet. Again. Gonna do a quick poison play. And we're just going to attach 2 more Morpeko and go for Sada for 3 cards. I think I was debating just Rampaging Hammering again there. But obviously I can't because I did it last turn. We can do a slightly wonky play, which is retreat, get the poke in with Morpeko, and then move the energy back to Bonnet. It's not great, but it's a bit of pressure. The opponent has a low hand size, so maybe it pays off. PokéStop hits the triple, so hopefully that gets them back into the game here. Do you see that Ultra Ball? It was just picked up, gets rid of Rope, so they must have another way of switching here. Gonna be Sada to both Roaring Moon. Yep, so they did have the other Rope. We can just give up Greninja. We have Klara to get energy if we need to, and Vessels, obviously. Do you see an energy to that Greninja? And just the Calamity Storm. So we're only hitting 170 with Fiery Wrath right now. Not ideal. Don't have access to Gust either. This hand is really clogged up. The Bibarels aren't really getting a whole lot done. Gonna Nest Ball fail. Don't want to give them the low hit point. Poke for the Greninja. Just gonna Klara. Back some energy and just get the Moltres army rolling. And yeah, looks like we're just going to set up the 2-shot with Brute Bonnet here because we can't do much better. We've established a really powerful board state, to be honest with you. And even though this is looking a little bit slow and anticlimactic, it's the safest way that we can just close the game here. Do you see that Greninja slowly gets ready to rumble? Here it comes, actually, possibly. Restart with Mew. Draws a few cards. Yeah, it's going to be the retreat. Let's see the Dark Patch. Onto the healthy Roaring Moon. And they can Shuriken fairly happily here. Take out Morpeko and damage the Bonnet. We can Sada. Our last card in deck is Switch, so we don't actually have to worry about too much here. Pretty sure. Even if there was a problem with decking out, we could just Pal Pad the Klara's back if they're going to go for like a stalling Bibarel play. Take Patch from prizes. It's fine. Even if the opponent swings with a 1-prize Pokemon at this stage, we will have Countercatcher opened up. So I'm not really seeing a huge way for them to make anything happen. Yeah, they're just going to pass, but we can Toxic Powder to push the Moltres to 230, and that's part of the reason why the Moltres is a much better attacker in the game now. Pushing 230 damage and pushing 280 are just 2 massive thresholds. Let's get one more game in. It's a pretty nice opener for us. We have VIP at least. If Greninja's in the deck, we're going to be drawing some cards. It looks like we're up against a Miraidon. Oh, Greninja prized. So Greninja's actually one of the hardest prizes in the deck, right? Because it's really important for us to draw cards. You'll notice there's a Galarian Moltres in this list. Like I said earlier, it's something I'm experimenting with. Molt plus Forest Seal Stone. Because it just makes the Arven a stronger card. So yeah, we are living in top deck city right now because we have no Greninja. Otherwise, we'd be really churning through some cards, but it's such an important one for this deck. Opens up Sada, opens up Patch. Obviously, Ultra Ball and Vessel can do that somewhat, but not really as well. The opponent notices we're on a bad hand, so gets rid of their own Ionos here. Also get rid of the rod, so again, just one Iron Hands that we have to worry about. Do you see the Ultra Ball? Then we get a Flaffy prepped for next turn. Just pass to us. Oh, Bibs is a great draw. We're gonna get a booster on the Bonnets, just to try and protect us a little bit. Not much help from Bibarel though, so we're just gonna go for a poison pass, I think. It's nice that Bonnet is a single prizer that stays out of hands range thanks to this Capsule. It would just be an extra combo piece for the opponent if they were to find Vacuum. Do you see Dynamotor onto Miraidon? The Raichu comes down. Interesting. See a Path. Attached to Miraidon. Another Research. Oh, bit of a miss for them there from the Research. Huh, interesting. Bibarel's still not really helping out too much, but I can do the Switch Attach play. I'm just going to take out the energies here. And hold the Stadium in hand in case I need it next turn, because we are at 290. Hopefully this is making life difficult for the opponent to take a KO. We don't take Greninja from prizes, unfortunately, but we do take Vessel, which is nice. Our hand's pretty interesting. We have Sada and Dark Patch, but no way to find Roaring Moon. Maybe PokéStop could help us get there. So yeah, the hand's still a little bit awkward. Oh, as we do see the Vacuum. So Roaring Moon is in danger. If they can power up Miraidon here, they would just need one hit from a generator. And a switch card, obviously. Here comes the generator. There is the one hit, so as long as they have switch cards, they could get the KO thanks to Zapdos. Yeah, nice. So they have found a way to bounce back at least here. Respond on the Roaring Moon. If they couldn't, they just lose on the spot, so kind of important that they could. The top deck is Ultra Ball, which is really strong actually. That means we can just Moon respond again here. We're going to get rid of Energy and Klara. Let's get that Roaring Moon into the mix. We can reduce our hand size quite a lot here for the first Bib draw. Obviously, we need to find a switch card as well, don't forget. Let's thin before this Sada. Definitely an argument to take the Galarian Moltres first. The awkward thing about taking the Moltres now is if we whiff, then we would be putting 2 multi-prizes on the board for the opponents. But I suppose you have to think of everything as a multi-prizer because of Iron Hands, so... We're up to PokéStop. That gives us access to Vessel and Ultra Balls. We can lower my hand size to, again for a second incisors, but we are whiffing on our switch cards right now. Let's see, we have Rope, Switch, and Forest Stone in the deck. So at this stage, I am going to take the Moltres. Again, mostly the logic is that at this stage, everything's a multi-prizer because Iron Hands exists. So we may as well put the Moltres down at this stage. We do keep the Vacuum around and just incisors for 4. We do fortunately hit the Switch, which means I actually get to bank the Forest as well, which is even better for our board position. And then we can Calamity Storm and take the response KO. And once again, with the double barrel, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I feel like we're in a really good position to close. We have Klara for Moltres plays, if the opponent's able to respond here on pretty much anything. And with Ultra Ball Vacuum in hand, we can lower the hand size pretty well, and we already have the Forest Seal Stone, so... I'm pretty sure that just means we have it, actually. Morpeko is the free retreat pivot. We have Forest Seal Stone for Klara. Klara gets double energy. So they would have to use, like, Iron Hands... No, that doesn't even work. Yeah, I think they're just checkmated from the Forest Seal Stone. With the Vacuum already played, I don't think there's anything they can do. Even if not, we have like a 17-card deck and a lot of draw from Bibarel, even if I didn't have the Forest, but again, it's just something I'm experimenting with. Just more reason for those of you who stick around to know that there's lots of different ways you can try and build this kind of funky list, but Here we go. They are going to Iono us, but, well, we've drawn back into a Darkness Energy, so Klara is still game. Do they even have a response KO here? They may not. No, they don't. So, yeah, some nice games. There were some bricky games in there as well. Like I said, I'm still experimenting with the deck, so I do think it is one of the slower builds. Obviously, it has a completely different feel to the Roaring Moon that you know, which is, you know, go burr, let me see 20 cards or whatever, turn 1, and just do the thing and smack. But because we're a single prize deck and we care more about our setup in the long game, and we have such a good late game of Klara that we can make these comeback plays happen. I feel like it's a much more stable deck with probably better matchups as well. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Cheers.